Okay, everyone, thanks for coming along. We've got a great panel here kind of collated. Can you hear me now? Yeah. There we go. So I was just saying, thanks for coming along. As Kelsey was saying, this is our first Flint night. We're all really excited to kind of see how we go. Now, we've got a great panel kind of collated here, and I'd probably like to kind of start off by talking about the very topic that we're talking about, the future of retail. So I'd kind of like to throw it around. We've got a couple of the 80/21 specialists here who I think can lend a bit of advice. What are some of the future trends? What are some of the features? What are some of the options?
In retail alone, a lot of the, if you look at retail, most people are going towards a web-based solution. Everyone's talking mobile now. I suppose mobile calls, mobile, having it on channels and everything. Sorry, I use my hands a lot, so it's very good.
Sorry, no one heard that.
Using a mobile platform's been huge in retail. A lot of people, a lot of companies are going towards obviously web-based. It's only started picking up in Australia for the last probably 3 years, 4 years. Before that, everyone was very, very scared about going online. But now there's a huge rush for online. But I think right now, with the omni-channel happening, everyone's looking at mobile phones. If you look at the stats, people who look at mobile tablets and online and go into store actually make up a lot of the sales in any business. People who just do one channel shopping don't make up a lot of the, in terms of percentages.
Sure.
Probably.
Excellent. Why don't we move around? So I'd like to swing it over to Sanjay and ask him to talk about some of the things that he's excited about with his business moving forward in digital. So
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. Well, as Joe said, I'm the co-founder of a company called Pure Baby. It's a very exciting baby wear brand. We're very excited about online because we've seen the online space change very quickly over the last 4 or 5 years. I think it started changing when ADSL2 became a standard feature at home and people were connected. It's changed dramatically with the mobile and the smart devices that we're seeing. So we're excited about the possibilities of launching a very exciting mobile site, and also working through our retail, because we're one of very few brands who's actually expanding, a baby wear brand is expanding in retail. So we want to see a lot more traffic coming to our website as we open more brick and mortar stores. So that whole integration part, and especially I would like to mention, since we've integrated our website with our back office system, which is Apparel 21, it's actually been very exciting, and the whole seamless process that we're seeing from our back office people putting and making a product available to the customer buying it, to the warehouse fulfilling it, and the customer being able to track it. It's a very exciting thing, and I think it's already starting to make a very, very big difference to our business. So, yes.
it's great. Sam, did you want to start talking a little about how real-time works?
No, I don't. Awesome. So real-time is kind of a cool feature that we get almost out of the box with Apparel 21 stuff, where as an order comes through, be that in-store, via online channels, mail orders, etc., the stock's updated real-time on the website. We're calling it real-time. It's a pretty cool feature because often a lot of websites in that operate an e-commerce store will have stock that is over-ordered, or they'll be sort of really conservative and they'll have a lesser amount of stock available online to prevent over-ordering. Real-time is kind of cool in that it means that whatever your inventory system says that you have in stock for an item is kind of available on the website to be sold. I think that's
cool.
nice back.
I just want to read out an interesting statistic here. It's from a recent NAB press release, and it's kind of actually, I wanted to kind of come back to one of the topics before about the fear of international stealing the market. You know, we're always worried about the kind of these other retailers stepping in. It's actually really interesting when you sit down and look at the figures, and it says here that 72% of sales in April 2013 were actually domestic. So it's actually, you know, there's a huge opportunity within the local market, and Australians are buying Australian. And I think that's kind of a really interesting kind of thing to kind of take note of. Now, moving on, I think that kind of gives us a little bit of an idea. We were talking about mobile, we were talking about omni-channel. One thing that I think is also going to be a really interesting trend moving into the future is having a better understanding of more information and more strategic approach to understanding consumer behaviour. So that's through analytics and data and tracking, building up a profile of individuals as well as the group to really understand the way that they're interacting with brands and give them targeted campaigns to really talk to them. So we'll kind of come back and talk about each of these topics. So the first one that I want to kind of really focus on, looking at you, is omni-channel. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of movement in this space. I might swing it over to Amanda to kind of explain the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, so how many people here tonight are from actual retailers? Yeah, and have you all got actual IT background? So if we start talking acronyms, are we going to keep up there? The reason why I ask that question is because through the consulting work that I do, is I've sat through a lot of meetings with management from retail companies, with consultants in digital areas and tech people, and they will sit there and the whole meeting's basically done in acronyms. So stuff like, I don't know, give me some acronyms, Sam, technical stuff.
I'm not an acronym person.
Well, it's quite common out there, and so if you don't actually understand what's going on, it's actually hard to adopt. So with the omni-channel focus, and omni-channel is yet another exciting buzzword. So about 4 or 5 years ago, everybody had to get an app because that was the thing to do. But now we all need to get an omni-channel, which is exciting. So basically what that means is that we want to actually focus on growing sales and depth through both an online channel and our form of bricks and mortar stores. So the hardest thing that I think that retailers face is how do we do this well, and how do we do this given our operational constraints. We don't have infinite resources within the business, and generally half the time when people actually adopt sort of an online presence, they either go a bit too heavy or a bit too light. So I think that one of the primary things that retailers will face going forward when they're looking at moving into this sort of space is how do we go about making sure that we do it properly. So I think to actually attain the growth that you want to get the most bang for your buck in this area, because it costs money. And a lot of people, because it's generally not tangible, and you're not doing a store fit out, you're not going to go spend $200,000 on a store and then put staff in it, and so you kind of go, well, what am I spending my money on? So effectively, when you're looking at, and I know I'm going off topic here, Joe, sorry, when you're looking at moving into this space, you really have to understand that you're going to be generating revenue from it. So you need to put money into it. You need to put resources into it. And the only way you can get growth from that omni-channel experience is to actually put some money behind pushing that business forward. It's not a matter of set and forget. You can't just build a store and go, it's not. Well, actually, I've had this conversation with a number of my clients, is it chicken or egg? Do we wait until we get some actual revenue coming through our online store, or do we actually throw resources at it to generate that revenue? Depending on what your business philosophy is how you answer that question. But I think it's important that a lot of the growth that you've seen amongst retail growth within Australia has been from those businesses that are taking advantages of both online store and bricks and mortar stores. That's where you're seeing a lot of growth. So rather than just digital or just bricks and mortars, they're doing the two really well. And if you can manage to do the two really well, you'll actually get a really, really good return. And I think that one of the other buzzwords around omni-channel is to ensure that you maintain the level of service and experience from your online store into your bricks and mortar stores and vice versa. But yeah, sorry, did I actually answer your question? I think I avoided it. Fabulous.
That was a buzz sentence, no buzz. Just FYI.
Sorry.
I'm going to say something.
You go.
Yeah.
Coming back to what Joe said earlier with the multi-channel and the omni-channel, I think a couple of years ago, multi-channel was huge. What that really meant at that time was that you needed to have different channels to sell. So you had an online channel, you had a wholesale channel, you might have had a bricks and mortar channel. But the problem with that was everyone was trying to sell the most in one channel. So for example, if you had an online store and a brick and mortar store, you would have lots of sales online to push the sales online, not forgetting the fact that you're actually losing sales in your bricks and mortar store. What omni-channel really is come to nowadays is actually having the same experience across all your channels and also supporting each other for the sales, which means that if you actually ran a promotion in your store, you apply the same promotions online. So people are not driven, or the consumers are not driven to one channel, but they're going across all your channels. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. No. And I think one of the other really big channels, one of the big issues with multi-channel and omni-channel is that multi-channel is naturally competitive because you've got brick and mortar stores competing with your online stores. So a retail outlet isn't going to refer someone online to buy the product if it's not in stock because they're going to lose that sale. So people actually walk out the door, and I'm sure each of us has probably had a similar experience to that. That kind of creates really interesting challenges though, because what happens if there is a sale in store, but someone's actually organised that through the website, so they've actually referred someone online. How does that kind of attribute, whose sales figures does that contribute to? And that's one of the really key challenges with omnichannel, is it's actually a change in business structure and how you kind of respond to that. So thinking about that and thinking forward, I'd like to swing it over to Sanjay to kind of see if he's got any thoughts around that space and how his business might need to react and respond to kind of support that.
Thank you, Joe. Exactly what you said. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we are facing at the moment is we've started putting iPads in our stores, and the idea is that although we carry a large inventory, if a certain item is not available, the consumer should be, our staff should be able to help the customer and say, look, it's not available, but it is available online. Let me order it for you, and we've also developed some codes, which means the customer does not have to pay extra freight. But it all comes down to, I think, the staff, although they're not questioning, I know what's in their mind, is whose sale is it, and are we losing a sale to the online at the expense of our own store? And I think it does require a cultural change, or for the back-end software to come up with some sort of a solution, which I think Apparel 21 has talked about, is how do you attribute that sale to? And I think for any organisation, I feel that is a challenge because it is going to be more and more used method in a way that I feel for a business, if you are running an operation with 30 or 40 stores, can you imagine the amount of inventory you're carrying in your back store just to cater for those sales? And I suppose for a business, how it can be very beneficial is you're carrying less and less inventory in your back store room, but more in a central location where if something is not available, you're actually procuring from your central warehouse rather than keeping it in 50 different locations. You're actually warehousing it in one location. But how does that stock then get distributed, or even to the point, are the consumers ready for that sort of an experience where they say, oh yeah, if it's not available, I can wait a day or two to get that? And I suppose that's where the challenge for the retailer lies, not only the cultural change within their own team, but also are the consumers ready to wait for that 1 or 2 days to get that item? I think that's the challenge for us.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add a little bit in there. We're actually seeing a bit of a trend in digital where a lot of stores are popping up that exist purely as showrooms. So even some big brands in the US are now doing it where they've traditionally had like full-on stores with their own built-in warehouse and all that, and they've got ranges of sizes and colours available. They're now sort of popping up as just one size of every colorway sort of showing up, and when you do an order, they're actually just chucking it into a website, which then fulfills it and posts it to you instead of you picking it up on the spot. It's an interesting shift in retail, kind of.
I'll just add to that. One of the things that I know that a lot of retailers struggle with is the operational side of fulfilling that and making sure that, you know, from an operational fact, I mean, that you've got the freight solution in place to deal with that. You know, the other thing I was just going to add to Sanjay's statement was that a lot of companies have incentive schemes for their store staff, their in-store staff, and so reviewing those incentive schemes to make them support the business. So in terms of, you know, if I get an incentive for every sale that I do, so obviously online will be a moderate threat. So how can we make sure that we can separate that data across so that we can still fulfil the incentive scheme for the store staff, etc. I know that AB21 did put the ability to report separately so that you can identify those transactions, I believe it wasn't it, that came from online but were fulfilled in store, so that you can still run whatever incentive scheme that you've got in place. But that was something that I've seen across a number of my clients, that they kind of struggle with that, getting that right.
Have you got any examples of clients that have done a particularly good job at doing this?
They're all currently in the process of doing it because most of them have just moved into that space, or they're moving into that space where they're starting to introduce that kind of click and collect kind of concept, where the store staff are basically asked to grab stock from their store and pack it and freight it, etc., etc. So it's something that's just relatively new. I know that a lot of the challenges have come from dealing with managing the store staff in terms of their incentives and their bonuses. But I've worked. Oh, my microphone's on.
You press the button.
I didn't even touch it, I swear.
You talk too much. I'll turn you off.
The rejection. Okay, I've got a loud voice, so it's okay. A lot of the things that they've struggled with has been not just the incentive side of things, but I've completely lost my train of thought now.
And your voice.
So I think it's just really important to make sure that all of this stuff sounds really great in theory, but executing it is half the battle. And so before you actually adopt these sort of processes of retailers, is that you have to actually sit down and go, okay, how are we going to do it? Back to my original thought, the same challenges with some other clients that I've dealt with previously who have got franchise models have had exactly the same issues. Obviously their franchisees are in a position where they don't want to lose sales, so they've had to work with that, and I think franchise companies have been dealing with that a bit earlier than your standard retailers because of those challenges alone. So, yeah.
And I think just to give you a background on this, when we first started talking about as a ERP system, back-end system, when we started talking about things like click and collect, one of the biggest challenges we had, as Amanda was saying, and Sanjay, I think everyone mentioned it, is the incentive bit, where who gets the sales commissions. So what we did was we had a chat with some of our customers, and I'm sure some of you here might have attended that. And what we got back from it was if you did something like click and collect, for example, where people were buying online and collecting in store, again, like Amanda said, who gets the commission for it? At the end of the day, most shop salespeople are driven by commission, so they're not going to keep product up and send it out without getting a commission. So it was actually said that the shop structures, business structures need to change so that the salesperson actually got the commission for that sale, even though it was done online, but they still have to pick the product up, pack it up, send it out. So they still got it, but there was ways of reporting to see how much of that sales came through a web or online presence rather than from the shop itself.
Excellent. I think that was a really good overview of some of the challenges in multi-channel and omni-channel and what kind of you need to move through to kind of get through that. And I want to kind of come back to one of Sam's